Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. I'm Parneet Shergill, and I have been a proud Ashokan for the last 4.5 years to be precise. I am also an assistant director on the outreach team and your moderator for today's session. In the undergraduate webinar series, we have covered topics related to Ashoka's undergraduate program, where we have had our esteemed faculty and academic counselors guide you in understanding the various aspects of the university, including academics, admissions and financial aid, career opportunities, and campus life, amongst other topics. The recordings of these previous sessions are available on Ashoka's YouTube channel, the link to which is provided in the chat box. Let me begin by thanking you for joining on today's session, a very special webinar with some of our students and their parents to discuss why they chose Ashoka as their destination for the undergraduate program. I assure you this will be a very informative session since you will get to hear a lot of first-hand experiences from the students and the parents. Feel free to keep posting any questions you may have in the Q&A box. We will be taking them up at the end of the session. Without further delay, I would like to welcome our panel of speakers. So the first panelist here is a mother-daughter duo. We have Rosheen Dhar from Mumbai and Ashoka alum who majored in history and international relations. She's joined by her mother, Shikha Dhar. So welcome Rosheen and Shikha. Our next panelist is Trisha Bhattacharya from Delhi. She's an Ashoka undergraduate batch of 2021, majoring in history and international relations. Joining her is her father, Gautam. So Trisha and Gautam Bhattacharya, welcome to you too. Mohammad Aman from Bangalore is an Ashoka undergraduate batch of 2022, majoring in political science and with a minor in international relations. He's joined by his mother, Firdaus. Welcome, Mohammad Aman and Firdaus. And lastly, we have Antara Gupta, who is currently pursuing her 4th year at Ashoka and doing her 4th year thesis in sociology and anthropology. And she's here with her mother, Nobina. Welcome, Nobina and Antara. Thank you all for taking out your valuable time and joining us this evening. It really means a lot to us. Today, we will cover 4 different aspects of the university and the undergraduate program from your perspective. So we'll start with the first question, which is, I'm sure it's a very basic question. We will start with wanting to know what really made you decide, what were the factors you were considering when you had to decide on your college? So can we start with you, Shikha?
Yeah, hi. So the biggest factor, obviously, as a parent and, wanting the best for our child is, especially an only child, was obviously a good college, a world-class education. And we keep saying ranking is not important, but yes, ranking was always there on top of our mind. And the cost of attendance also was a big factor, especially at Ashoka. So having applied all over the world also, and and then having Ashoka on our list, we thought Ashoka kind of fit in every checkbox, everything that we wanted. So that's why Ashoka was a good bet.
Yeah, and let me tell you, audience, Shikha is a counselor herself and a very well-reputed one at that. So coming from a counselor, that really means a lot, Shikha. Thanks for that. And Gautam, what would you like to add there?
Well, we have a lot of family and friends in the education sector, and in different universities in Delhi and outside. They all recommended Ashoka for various reasons, and that was one of the deciding factors. Obviously, Trisha also had applied abroad also, but then we finally narrowed it down because we'd rather have her in India rather than abroad. And there are a lot of other various reasons which we'll keep talking in due course.
Sure. Yeah. How about you? What would you like to say to that? Nobina, I'm sorry. Nobina, what would you like to say to that?
For us, it was a little different that, me and my husband both are artists. And Antara grew up in an environment which was very creative at home, as well as she was studying in Calcutta International School, which was giving her a very different environment. So we were always very keen to look into a place where she would get the nurtured faculty, as well an environment where she would actually nourish her education, as well as get an holistic vision about the world and grow up as an individual. So I think Ashoka was where we also went to many colleges and she applied. And while application in itself, we realized that these were not the colleges that would fit into our perspective. Right. So somewhere Ashoka meant much, much more to all that was, I think, would lead to a better future for our child. So that was
right. Right. And Firdaus, what would you have to say?
Yeah, okay. When we started the process of looking out for colleges for Aman, so we had a lot of things in mind. First of all, we were looking at, coming from most of the schools, I mean, all the schools that he's been to were very unconventional, not the same kind of rote learning, and they were quite different in their approach. So we wanted the same as for his UG program also. And we were looking at liberal arts because he has varied interests, be it political science or history or IR, all these things. So, and with that, we were looking at, a place where he would have an exposure to the different, thought process. It was not the same thing that we were looking at. So we thought that Ashoka, would be able to offer him that among many other things. There were a lot of other things and of course, even the brand value, like, being from Ashoka and coming from that, we realized that it would give him such a platform that it would be useful for him in the future. And, just take out the best potential, the hidden potential that he would have. So that is it.
So which brings me to my next question, and I think pretty much, you have sort of touched on that as well, that what is it that you found at Ashoka? I mean, what was the reason you made that choice? I know you, a couple of you have mentioned the holistic growth. You were looking like, Nobina, you said you were looking for a overall and a holistic growth. So Nobina, apart from that, what else is it that attracted you to Ashoka?
I think the first time when we visited Ashoka in itself, the whole environment, the infrastructure, the students who were welcoming us, I think the environment was one thing that really pulled us in, because we felt it was not a one-way like knowledge sharing. It was like a both way, and somewhere the confidence and the identity that the children actually carried along with them was very valuable to us. And
sorry, but Antara, did you also visit the campus? I'm sure you did with your mother. And what did you have to say about that?
Yeah, so we didn't actually go for a campus tour. We ended up reaching there on our first day during the orientation period. And so initially I had been to other college campuses for the interview process and things like that. But I think just reaching there did make it feel like it didn't feel like a very different space because of how comforting the entire process was. Yeah. And it was how you think of seniors to be like this intimidating thing, but all the seniors were there doing a particular guiding role and being there for us. So I think it was a really different experience that took me aback.
Yeah. And the audience will be really surprised to know that these are all volunteers. The students who take you around the campus, they're all student volunteers and they love doing the job. So they really, and I know you guys, some of you must be also a part of that. So Aman, I want to know from you what made you decide on joining us.
For me, it was the faculty to a large extent, because I remember going into one of my classes and realizing that this was the book that I read over the summer, and this professor was the one who had authored the book. So I remember being really excited and seeing him and being like, oh my God, this is the book that I read through the summer and you're in front of me now. So I think the faculty was something that was a very big factor for me in choosing Ashoka, and obviously hearing about how, from my seniors as well from school who've joined Ashoka and knowing the experience itself. So I think that's what helps you in making that decision and understanding that, even if it's in Sonipat and far away from home, it's very much worth it. So I think so that convincing by the seniors and like the effective faculty is what really drove me to Ashoka.
Okay. And Roisin, I know Shikha said that you were trying, I mean, you had applied to universities all across the world. And you are among the initial batches of Ashoka. So I'm glad you made the choice of joining Ashoka. And, I hope, you can share something interesting about what made you decide, take that very important decision in your life.
So, like Aman said, I think the faculty was a really big factor for me because a lot of our professors are very well known in their field. So you're really learning from the people who are making the knowledge that is being created in those fields. And so at the beginning, because I was one of the earlier batches, I was a bit hesitant on what about job prospects and things like that. But one of our relatives, when I was still applying, told us that if you're getting into Ashoka, just accept blindly, just go, because and she works in the corporate field. So hearing that from someone who could be one of the people who would eventually give me a job, and hearing how Ashoka was doing well even in those spaces, in the early days, I think that really helped me as well.
Right. And Trisha, you also applied to international universities. Or was it only universities in India?
So the reason I was applying abroad and as well as Ashoka was because I wanted um, freedom, because I really didn't know what it was that I wanted to study, right? So I was looking for space to grow and freedom, which is why I was looking at places that would, give me that sort of an ability to explore more, which is why I looked at a lot of places abroad. And Ashoka also, I started my application process early. I actually submitted in the first round because people around me had suggested and said that, why don't you apply early and then you can keep exploring other places. But then I got in early, and both my dad and I, we'd visited the campus and we looked up, faculty on the website and everything. And as other people also said, the faculty was really one of the deciding factors because, you see these names who you see in the newspaper sometimes in the headlines or in places like that. And, in class, in one of your classes, you're reading something written by another professor or something like that. So you really realize that um, it's something that you wouldn't get in a lot of other places, especially in India. So I think that decision was really worth it in the sense that I am at a place where it's world class education in India. So in that sense, I think it really made sense.
You stole the words from my mouth. I really believe in it myself. It's world class education at your doorstep, and I'm glad to hear that straight from a student. And and how was the application process, Trisha? Coming back to you, since you said you applied early, and honestly, I really think that was a smart thing to do because applying in the earlier rounds gives you so much of clarity. It helps you make the right decision, and you've got time on your hands. So, can you just talk a little about the application process?
So I think the first round ended in late November, and during the application process, you since it's such a holistic process in terms of application too, so it's not just your grades. So you're collecting certificates if you have any for extracurricular and co-curricular activities. You have to write an essay. You have to get a letter from your teacher and stuff like that. So it took a bit of time because you have to collect a lot, and my dad was helping me, scanning everything, uploading everything. There's a lot to do, but I think it makes sense because once you submit, then you might get called for an interview if you make it through that round. So since I was in Delhi, I made it to the in-person interview in Vasant Kunj, and there it's quite a lengthy interview. They ask you all sorts of questions, and it's not just asking you, oh, how did you do in school? They're trying to gauge what sort of a thought process you have. What is it that you like to read, to study, to listen to, and things like that. What is your worldview, sort of a thing, and then you have an on-the-spot essay and an exam. And even those questions, it's not like it's not general knowledge, and they're not like to test. They're not trying to test your skills in a very I would say like material terms. It's more like, oh, what can you say? What are your thoughts and opinions on a certain topic?
So I'll just elaborate by saying that it's people are just the admissions team is just trying to get to know you better because like you said, the application process is a the form is a lengthy process because just trying to get to know you better as a person. So yeah, and any other experience in the application process that you would like to share?
I think one thing that I sort of realized was that they just want you to be honest, that, they just want to know who you are. It's not like they want like a clean cut image of you. Like they'll keep asking you extremely random questions sometimes that, and it's just they want to see what sort of a person you are. It's just that. So in that sense, I would just say like don't be too nervous about it and just like be who you are.
Yeah. So that's a great thing you said, Trisha. Just be yourself. And Antara, what about your admission process? How was the process? How did you find it? I mean, how did you go through the whole filling the application? And I mean, Antara, you can elaborate on that yourself.
Yeah, so I was actually in one of the later rounds for the sort of application, and I had already given a lot of competitive exams, and I was really frustrated with the entire process of being like judged for your that one grade that you get after all that effort you put in. So it was really, I know I was nervous because like the interview, and there were like so many rounds to it, but like overall at the end of the application process, I was sure even if I don't get in, I had showed them who I am, and it's like on the basis of that. And even in the interview, I remember the thing that Trisha said is like, even if they saw that I had a particular thing that I wasn't too happy about, even if it might look like a flaw, they wanted to know like how I reflected on it, rather than just be like, okay, you are flawed, okay, that is it, we won't take you in because you're not that perfect student we want. And yeah, I think overall I was just really just happy with the way it was happening, even if it was a lot. So yeah.
So, Aman, would you say you also got a lot of insights into your own personality when you were doing the whole admission process?
Yeah, I think that accurately describes it because there were many questions that came up which I myself didn't have thought about when looking at like my past. So like I remember one question which took me, which like took me by surprise was about why would I want to join an institution which is relatively new. So that really got me thinking, and like it made me actually more convinced of my own application and my own like belief in Ashoka itself. So I think the interview process makes you also like think about your decisions more clearly and also like reflect on your past and more than just the grade on your marks card. So I think that's what matters a lot. Like and I found that particularly different because like Antara was saying, these competitive exams that I was attempting to do earlier, like I was applying for law. I remember that the entire process itself aimed at like acing certain subjects to get the right grade. But over here, it was me displaying my talents, my overall personality. So I think that is much better than any other process that I had gone through.
So, self-awareness, basically, just yeah. So, and what about you, Roshin? How smoothly did your whole? You had enough help and advice from your mother. So, how smoothly did the application process go for you?
I would say for me, a lot of it was quite interesting. So Tisha mentioned the on-the-spot essay. So that specifically, I really enjoyed doing because even though it was kind of stressful as we were doing it, the question was really creative. So I think my question was, is graffiti art or vandalism? Something like that. And it really, there's no facts there that you can mention, right? It's all about how you structure your essay, your creative thinking in the moment. So I really enjoyed that. My interview, I thought didn't go that well. So I was really surprised when I got in, and I realized then that they kind of wanted to see how I was answering, not exactly what I was answering. So even if my content was wrong here or there, it was more about was I confident in what I was saying? Was I thinking about different aspects of the question? Things like that.
So that's great to hear that you enjoyed the application process, which is what we say to students all the time, that it's a lot of self-awareness. So it's a great thing to be going through the whole application process just to become more self-aware. That's good. So I think it does serve its purpose. Okay, my other question would be, I would want each one of you to share your experiences at Ashoka, the parent as well as the student, because I know for Roshin, you've been through the 4 years. So Roshin, you and Shikha, if you could collectively share your experiences I mean, you as an Ashoka student and Shikha as a parent, I mean, it would be really nice.
Yeah, so I already graduated early on this year. For me, Ashoka was a great experience. I mean, being one of the earlier batches, our community was quite small. So everyone knew everyone else. The faculty was really close to the students. So you could get that hands-on experience when you were in classes as well. And we also have a lot of clubs. So even outside classes, there's lots of things that you're doing. You can play sports, you can join a lot of extracurricular things. So I just really enjoyed my experience. Um,
So as a parent, honestly, because I myself have been to a boarding school all my life, like grade 1 to grade 12, always in a boarding school. So I wanted her to get out of the house, but for the right reasons. She's always in a house for grade 1 to third, 12 was in a day school. So the only experience that she would have got at a hostel probably was somewhere close by. And we were happy. And that was the reason we chose Ashoka also, because it was a hostel. It was in India and she could have come home anytime, which she did. She actually landed up back in Bombay every month. So for us, it was a win-win. So and she became so independent and so strong about the. I mean, as a parent, I was very, very proud of her, what Ashoka had done to her.
That's great. And Antara, you spoke about, your overall holistic growth. So how did Ashoka help you? I mean, did it fulfill what you really dreamt of before you joined Ashoka?
Yeah, so I actually applied as a physics major, but that's because I hadn't explored humanities like I'd wanted to in school. And like coming to Ashoka, I took like a lot of different courses and I got to like experiment. And yeah, like Roshin, I also was in one of the initial batches. So again, we got like that one-on-one with the professors. And I think the best bit is like they always keep encouraging you, like even in like foundational courses where they had 100 students, they'd be like, please come for my office hours. And I like it was really surprising for me, but like I ended up going and I used to even tell them that I didn't understand what you described in class, and they would like sit with you and they'd help you out. So like even I graduated last year, but I'm doing the Ashoka Scholars Program the 4th year, and I'm doing a thesis right now. So I think the entire time it was like I just felt like I wanted to learn more, and it was a really new experience where I was enjoying academics as much as I was, and it was just like being able to share every single thought with the professors and them being so like welcoming and like them taking care of you in the process of learning. So yeah, I think there was just a lot of new experiences.
And Nobina, have you seen her grow in the last 3+ years?
I think definitely. I think Ashoka's made a big change. And like we always, whenever, like from the first day itself, whenever she was having any session, she would be excited. So it was, as a parent, if I look like to have a call that, this was the class that we had, these were the topics we are discussing, he's the professor from here and this and that. So it was a kind of a learning. Like I always was tempted that I wish I could be a student of Ashoka at the moment and be a student now and just, enrich myself. But as a human being, I felt that the opening of doors was much, much wider. In any other university, I don't think they'll be able to do this, because you have the world-class faculty, as well as you have an environment which is so much encouraging to have a dialogue. So I think that encouragement that brings in the best out of you, and also the excitement that it builds in. It's not the education is not empowering. I know I can see her at present. She's online, she's been doing classes, but not for 1 second that it feels like a burden. Like, I can see how much she enjoys all this. So this enjoyment with education as well as enrichment is something I think Ashoka is, I'm blessed to have Ashoka. And the other thing, what she was saying about hostel, as parents, you always feel very, at times, you have these apprehensions, what an hostel life might bring in. But I think Ashoka gives you the kind of environment which is secure to some extent, as well as it also gives us the responsibility, the freedom and the responsibility which go hand in hand, that builds within you. So you understand your responsibilities as you get your freedom.
So it's the right balance, you think, between
Perfect, I
being
think.
free and yet being,
Yeah.
And Gautam, have you ever wanted to go back to college once you saw Trisha? I mean, I'm guessing she had a great time. So what were your thoughts on that?
Well, definitely when we did the orientation round, both of us went, and a student took us around, and in a seminar or in a room, they made us sit down and introduce the whole course structure and the different options available. And that is where there was this, I would say, the clinching clause there, where they said that critical thinking is an essential part, compulsory for all the students.
Right.
And I said, oh, that's something which I don't think anywhere else in India they teach you critical thinking for whether it's arts or science. That's a very, and the flexibility, the options available. They explain that different semesters you can switch courses from arts to, I mean, science, and a mix and match of different courses. Those are the things that really, made you aware. Okay, so the student doesn't get, and also, unlike conventional universities, Ashoka doesn't tell you unless you have eco. If you're majored in science, you can't take up eco or vice versa or these that. If they think you can do well, they'll give you the option, try it. If you don't find it nice, and in any case, I think after 3 semesters or after two semesters is where you have to finally make up your mind to take your final courses. So that is a major thing.
Yeah, it's
That's a major
in the
thing.
true sense.
Yeah.
Yes. And Firdaus, how have you seen Aman grow in at Ashoka? I mean, what would you like to say as a mother?
First of all, he was the first kid from the entire extended family to be stepping out at this young age and going into a hostel kind of education, institute. And so this was a first time experience for all of us. So of course we had the apprehensions, okay, how it's going to be, and how the food and the whole setup at the environment. And after having visited, we felt very much at ease. We saw the entire the setup, and we were very much at ease, and we felt, yeah, he can be okay and he can do well here. And there are a lot of things that he learned to adjust. Like in the first year, they are put together, not from their choice. They have to share the rooms with the assigned roommates. So that was a huge learning experience, being from, again, a nuclear family. So, learning to adjust, learning to, giving that space to the other person and things like that. He, really grew into, very independent and very adjusting kind of a young man, I must say. And and on the other hand, on the academic front also, with Ashoka, it's like everyone is entitled to their own opinion. So it's not just that they have to conform to the traditional ways of thought and political views. It could be anything, as long as you are able to hold your own and able to, you believe in it and you're able to portray that. There is always, a certain section, a certain view that is, which they value you for. And you just have to put it across and believe in it. So that's really important. You're not just conform to the traditional or, the set ways and the acceptable ways. So I think that's huge for him and for us also.
Absolutely. And Aman, I want you to share your experiences on campus because, like your mother said, you've grown in a nuclear family and you were the first one to step out. So tell us how it was on campus. How was it sharing a room with someone? I want to hear more about that.
I think it was very interesting because, first of all, we again come from like a city which is not well represented. I mean, in Ashoka, we like Bangalore is well represented, but again, it's you're North India, you're in a different environment, which is completely like, different from where we come from. So again, being pushed into and being into like a setting which is completely alien, you kind of learn to find a friend in your roommate. And like I can tell you by experience from everyone in our first year, I think most of us still stick by our first year roommate, even if we do make friends who we want to like room with, we still stick by our first year roommate because of the bond that we share. So I think that's amazing about Ashoka because it forces you to a certain extent to put yourself in a position and to deal with those circumstances. And I feel like and because of the unfamiliarity of the situations everyone faces, I think we are all bound together in a sense. So that situation just makes life easier, and I feel makes the campus more homely and family like. Yeah.
So that's really nice to hear that you didn't find it like an alien really atmosphere like you would have thought it would have been. How about the life on campus as far as apart from academics? I mean, you all spoke about faculty, and we've heard great things about the Ashoka faculty. What about things beyond that? I mean, what do you? I would love to be on campus. Unfortunately, I haven't spent a whole day there. I've spent time like in bits, but I really want to know what you people do on campus. So Trisha, if you can just quickly share your, like, in a couple of lines, what your day is like on campus.
Um, I came in, I mean, I'm from Delhi, but like I came in with virtually no friends. So, clubs and societies, I would say, was one of the starting points where I made a lot of new friends. I mean, of course, my roommate, and during your orientation week, you put into small groups, so you make friends there. But like, so I joined a lot of clubs and societies. So I do dance. So joined the dance society, and initially I joined the biology society because I was doing biology. But then when I shifted subjects and took history, I joined the history society. And a year in, I also joined the campus tours team, which is the volunteers you're talking about who take people around campus and everything. And so people join, people will join the music society, the arts, theater, everything. So I mean, you attend classes in the morning, but you'll have lunch hour meetings for other things, and in the evenings you are running to practice or other meetings and stuff like that. So I think in that sense, you're always engaged when you're on campus. You're always interacting with a lot of different people, and you'll have performances or you'll have shows in which whatever club or society you're a part of, you're collectively putting on and showing people what you have done through the semester, through the year. So it's like a collective effort also. So you're not just in it just for the fun of it. You're also putting in effort and making something of this energy that you're putting into it. So I think in that sense, you're really channeling like whatever, like other than academics, whatever other creative part of you have. It could be like sports and stuff also, but like you're always doing something on campus, which I think is really nice.
Yeah. So I'm going to move on. We have lots and lots of questions, and I hope we have enough time to cover them. But I'm going to move on to our questions now. I think one of the first questions that has come up, and I've always wondered this myself, is that I think I should ask Antara to take that, because you said you wanted to study biology when you joined Ashoka, and you changed your physics. Sorry, I'm sorry. And what made you change your mind? So was it the foundation courses? How did you really, I mean, what was the reason you changed your mind, or how did the foundation courses influence you? Because as you all know, the foundation courses are a large, they're a very important part of education at Ashoka. And we sort of expose students to all different subjects. So what was the role the foundation courses played in your academic career?
So I think like education in a particular subject in school can be really different from how it's taught in college. So I know for a fact, like with me as well as my friends, a lot of them came with a particular mindset of when I learn the subject, it'll be taught like this. But then it really changes when you like see it in a different form. And the foundation courses showed you the different forms it appears in like a university education. And then you realize that maybe this isn't what you were looking to do like the rest of your life, or like even for a really long period in your life. And I know like for me, with the sociology major, I didn't actually do a foundation course, but I did an intro course. So that's the thing. Like even if you don't have foundation courses, you have introduction to particular courses. And I took an introduction to philosophy as well, and to psychology, and like you just like have a lot of possibilities to like try each course out in its whole, like, and they give you like a whole perspective of like gradually putting you into the subject, but also what will look like later on in a more advanced form. And I think like that helped me understand what I would like to do more than just like enjoying maybe however I had interacted with the subject in school. So I think, yeah, like that truly did show me.
Yeah. Yes, Trisha, you can add there.
Sorry, just adding on to that. So even I changed from biology to history, and it was actually due to a foundation course. And it was a history related foundation course in my first year. And I used to tell my dad in school that I absolutely hate history. And he used to always tell me, CBS is not teaching it to you the right way. And that is why you're ending up hating it. And I was like, no, I'm never going to do it. So I go in for my first year, and I used to call up my dad every day and tell him, I'm really loving this subject. So, in my second semester, I took an intro to history course. I liked it even more, and I then dropped biology and, went on to take history things. So that's something that that's an advantage that you have there.
Right. And Gautam, what did you have to say to her when, did you say, I told you so?
Well, well, yes, because I always used to tell her that understanding history, in whatever subject you are, as a human being, to understand history is very important.
Right.
And whether it's you are in science stream or whichever stream, that is very important. And I used to keep telling her, and I used to keep giving her sort of incidents and anecdotes about different aspects. And she used to at times call from the college, university, and say, "Dad, what you said was taught to us today. What you said was taught to us today." That, and I used to be very happy. Well, that's going in the right direction. And the best part is she's enjoying.
Great, great. I think that's the bottom line when the students enjoy a program. And tell me, Aman, did you have any unusual experience with the foundation courses, or you just took whatever you?
So for me, I think foundational courses were interesting because of the fact that I was not very inclined towards science or math, but I had take up one foundation course which was dealing with science or math. So I was really reluctant to take up that course, but I ended up getting a course in computer programming, which is the foundations course in computer programming, and it was actually a very enjoyable course. And even the professor and even the class seemed to be focused on people who didn't come from any background particularly and could just explore the subject. And even if you were bound to like not do well, you would still be encouraged to try your best. So I think that like pushing yourself to the deep end in that course really helped me in like make me confident about doing anything else which I was familiar with in college itself. And I think I had a very similar experience like Trisha in terms of even my EVS FC, where I didn't really like EVS because I had like a very set image of it being like this part of ICC curriculum, which is just like an additional part, which is really like boring and like just specifying about greenhouse gases and stuff. But I realized that EVS can be much more than that. And I think today I'm looking forward to doing like an EVS concentration if I can. So, I think FC's just changed the way you look at certain subjects.
Yeah. So another, very important, aspect about learning at Ashoka is the peer learning. And we really say that, we say that peer learning is an important part. But I want to know from the students. I would like to know, say, from Roshin first to begin with. What would you say? How has peer learning contributed to your education?
I think in most of our courses, even our foundation courses where there's 100 people in class, you'll have something called a discussion section once a week, where for 1 hour, the professor's not even in your class. So it's not a part of the lecture, and it's only the students discussing what you learned that week. So that in itself was quite a new concept because it was all about our opinions and how we interacted with what we learned. So that was quite a great experience. Even later on in your major courses, the classes tend to be quite small because the professors are usually quite focused on interaction between us and the faculty as well as us among ourselves. So I think Ashoka emphasizes that quite a lot in most of our courses.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. And I think one of you already said that you could reach out to the faculty very easily, but I would like you to, Antara, if you could elaborate on how easy is it to reach out to faculty? Are faculty easily accessible? What is your could you please share your classroom experience?
Yeah, so I think it was really like not something I was expecting, because like when you are in a class full of 100 students, how could the faculty possibly have time to like meet you after classes? But I think the faculty was actually like, the professor was constantly requesting us that please, I want to meet each one of you at least once before the course ends, and I want to know each one of you. And I don't want it to be a class I'm just teaching without knowing any of you. And when I did go, I realized how welcoming the professor was, because I had taken an economics FC and I had never done economics, and things were very new and difficult for me. But he sat through with me, and there's an option to go to the teaching faculty, like teaching assistants as well. So you can make the choice, and like sometimes he might even guide you. Like the professor might guide you with a particular doubt that, oh, you can go to the teaching assistant for this. But like other than that, also he would sit with me. through like particular problems that I had, and like otherwise also from my other like sociology classes as well. It's just like really like I've heard this across departments, but they're really like out there. Like they tell you every class that, you know, these are my office hours, please drop by, I'm going to be sitting in my office, just like come and we'll have a chat. And it can be about anything. It can be about the course, it can be about some apprehension that you have in life, it could be like just a conversation. So yeah.
And it's amazing because in my few interactions with faculty, they've always brought up names of students. They know the students one on one. They, they're so connected with the students, so to say. Okay, so the other question that's right here is, it says, while evaluating undergraduate options, what were the points that stood out with Ashoka in comparison to the more renowned institutions such as Delhi University? So I think a Delhi student would be best to answer that. So Trisha is really keen to answer that. Please go ahead, Trisha.
No, I suppose I'm the only Delhi student here. That's why. No, I actually live quite close to North Campus.
Yeah.
So, Delhi University has sort of been like omnipresent in my life, I would say. And like, once you're in class 12, everyone around you is always asking you, where are you going to college? And once you give your boards, everyone's like, oh, did you apply to DU? So I think that's like a constant sort of a thing. And even though I had said like, after boards, I'd already gotten into Ashoka. So I tell people that, no, I've already gotten into college. Like I already have a place. And they're like, oh, you didn't apply to DU. Why not? So I think DU is sort of a standard, especially in North India. But like I made a very conscious decision to not apply. Not that it's a bad place, but for some reason I felt like it had these archaic institutional structures that I wasn't very keen on. In the sense, I would see my friends applying in, first round, second round, and it's based on marks so much. And I scored well, but it's still something that I thought that didn't, help like represent me properly. In the sense, like after having, especially yes, and like I'd already gone through Ashoka's application process. So after that, I sort of felt like, I have a space where it's more than just marks. I have so many other opportunities, and I also have freedom to, start something and maybe end up not doing that and doing something completely different. So I think those are a few of the things that I would say differentiate Ashoka in terms of application and education later on from places like DU.
Right. Okay. So the next question is, do you feel that your education is different from your schoolmates? So when you're, especially when those who are studying at traditional universities, and I think Aman wants to say something there. So Aman, over to you. Compared to your friends, do you think you have an edge over them?
So something that I've noticed is that I come from a commerce background in terms of like my 10th grade or my 12th grade electives. So I see friends who've taken up commerce in like their college, and I've realized that for them it's a continuation of school without any improvement in terms of what they're learning. So I find that Ashoka, if anything, has been like a jump into like the deep end of the pool, in terms of like how different it is from what I've studied. I was never introduced to the world of academia in my 10th or 12th grade at all. I didn't know something called academia even existed before coming to Ashoka. But my friends, I think, are still in the dark when it comes to that. Like they don't, I mean, also because of the choice of courses they've taken, but even those who have ended up taking arts or like even political science with specificity, they do realize that Ashoka gives them the opportunity to write research papers, to, like make your own choices and make your own, make your own like base in terms of your studying. So I think that's something which no one else is given an opportunity as much in my friend circle, at least from what I see.
Right. And Roshin, I know Mumbai University is right next doors, and it must have been. Did you even give it a thought? I mean, did you want to stay back in Mumbai because the college culture is really, exciting in Mumbai? So, what made you take that big step and move to the Sonipat?
Yeah, we considered it for a bit, but I studied IB in 11th and 12th. And in that, you get really used to writing a lot of academic papers. And there's no rote learning in IB, right? So I knew that when I went to college, I didn't want to do rote learning at all. And in Ashoka, especially for our majors, everyone here, we write a lot of papers. So you write full-fledged academic papers with citations and research. And I think that is quite unique to Ashoka, especially in India, where you have exams where you'll have factual information, but then you write a lot of things where you do it all yourself, of course with help from your professor, but it's quite a great experience.
And Shikha, have coming from where you are, what did you even give it a thought, sending her to the campus at Sonipat?
So to be honest, at that time we had actually not even looked at Mumbai University. We had looked at probably only NMIMS in Bombay, and probably only Ashoka in India, and the rest was all overseas, like whether it was US, UK, Europe, Canada. She actually got admission to most of the colleges, in fact, all the colleges that she applied to. But we chose Ashoka simply because of the liberal arts that we wanted her to do. And at that time in India, the concept of liberal arts was obviously known, but not as popular as it is even probably today, like 3-4 years down the line. And she was one of those students, like she was good at all her subjects. So she was confused. She wanted to do biology at one time. She wanted to do eco at one time. She never got history at a chance to study because their IB at that time, they did not even offer the course. I mean, their school did not offer history. So we said, fine, go for economics because, being from corporate background, etc. And what I liked about Ashoka was the liberal aspect because, she went into study economics and finance, and she changed to history and IR very, very soon. So, and that was a passion always, which was there with her. So this is what I like about Ashoka, which was, probably going to a Mumbai University and going to whichever college, she would have probably had to change courses or change college completely to kind of study what she wanted to. So the stability which Ashoka gave is what we liked.
Yeah, and I always tell students it's perfectly fine to be confused because you have liberal arts and science colleges for that reason, because they give you the opportunity to explore and make up your mind. So that's absolutely fine. And a large number of students are confused.
I'm going to just add one more bit out there. So being a counselor, I actually get to hear, like this is what I want my child to study, but my kid doesn't want to study that. I said at 16 or 17 years old, it's okay that the child doesn't know what they want to study.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And there is so much pressure on students these days. The minute they're in class 11 and 12, that question, what do you want to do? Have you made up your mind? Have you decided? So yeah, I agree with you. So I'll move on to the next question. Whichever one of you wants to take it can raise their hands. What are the opportunities to get international exposure at Ashoka? Does the university have tie-ups with colleges outside India? So whoever wants to take that can raise their hand. And yeah, okay, Trisha.
Sorry, no one is raising their hand. If someone wants to add, they can. But yes, we do have a lot of tie-ups with international universities, and you can find a list on our website. And so we have tie-ups for summer abroads and semester abroads. And university will also help you, for applications for higher education, after college finishes. And summer abroad was actually something that I looked into, and I would have done this summer had the pandemic not been there. I'd gotten in also. So you have a team built for global education. So you go to them, and they'll help you with your application process and everything. And it's pretty great actually, because you also have seniors who have gone and after they've done a summer or a semester abroad and they've come back, so you actually get to talk to people. So it's not just people who've gone off for higher education and you never meet them later. So you have seniors who have gone and they come back and they'll tell you what the process was like, what's good, what's not good, and things like that.
So would you say, Trisha, that the whole alumni network is really strong? I mean, that's the sense I'm getting from what you're saying.
I'm sorry, your voice got cut off a bit.
I'm saying, the sense I get from what you're saying is that the alumni network is very strong. And is that what you're saying also?
Yes, the alumni network is pretty strong, and we do have student groups, where we can contact everybody and they'll put you in touch and everything. So it's not just people who are, passed out of college, but also people who are there in college, who are coming back to do their last semester or maybe like a fourth year, like Antara is doing and stuff like that, who, have done something or the other abroad.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to go on to the next question, which is, since most school education is all about rote learning, what did you think about the teaching pedagogy at Ashoka? I mean, was it very different? Was it exciting? how was it different from what you did at school? So if I know, Rasheen, you're from an IB school, so that's very different. But Antara, would you like to answer that?
I actually also did a Cambridge board in my school.
Right.
So it was a bit similar, but I think even then, like in terms of writing, I wasn't very comfortable. And so it was really great to see that there were like particular bodies such as the Center for Writing and things like that, where people would sit with you and you could like improve upon whichever bit you wanted to work on in like terms of skills. And yeah, I think it was very different. And I know a lot of us did find it difficult from time to time, but again, there were a lot of resources to help you out at every moment. So I think
the other thing I think also added up is when she was in school, we always used to find it difficult that she would never ask questions, never ask, even things, doubts which you have in mind. I think Ashoka gives you the kind of field where you can put your doubts in front to your faculty or else, to your peers. So I think this comfort level is something which adds on to the education system.
Yeah, asking questions. Tell me about it. Even I've started asking so many questions now, 4.5 years down the line. Okay, so I'll move on to my next question. In fact, going back, Trisha, since you were from the CBSE background, did you find it very different, the learning experience, the teaching pedagogy, learning by heart, reproducing? How was it?
It was very different, going in, because CBSE is nothing but rote learning. And,
Yeah.
I would spend days cramming for exams that I, have to give, because there are set answers that you have to write. But then, as Roshan was saying, you write papers and you do all the research on your own. So in the first year, like in your first semester, even if it's foundation courses and they're comparatively lighter compared to, major courses, you're still writing papers and stuff like that. So it took me a while to adjust, and I did take a few sessions with the Center for Writing to, learn how to structure my arguments and, how to present a paper so that it's not, just facts one after the other, because, you have to structure it so that it's your analysis of something. So I think that is something you learn gradually over time across different subjects, and you do have a lot of facilities available to you, whether it's a Center for Writing or your professors. Even if you email them, they'll reply. You can send them a draft, or you can ask them questions, or you'll have teaching assistants to help you. You'll have seniors, you'll have classmates. So it's a continuous process of learning how and like changing your thought process to adjust to a system which is not rote learning. But you get there eventually, and it's so much better at the end of the day.
Great. And Firdaus, how's it been having Aman at home? I mean, we all know the students are home and they're learning from home. So how's it been? How's the, whole pandemic time been for both of you?
Okay, well, see, once the pandemic was hit, I mean, we, of course, we were very worried, and then, of course, they came home. In fact, it was him and my daughter who was back from London midway through her master's. So having both the kids back home, we were kind of very happy, elated in the beginning, and it was good to have them back home. But then as time went by, I realized that it's just not going to be the same. His studies would just go on as before, and I realized that there is so much that they need to do, and he would be just in deep with his laptop, with his writings, with his studies online all the time. And then I just realized it's really hectic what he's doing. It's not just so easy. So whether he was home or not really didn't make that much of a difference, because he had his work, and neck deep he was in it. So, but anyway, that is how Ashoka is. But it made me realize also the hard work that they put in, and it's all for the good, I suppose.
How's it been? How has online learning been for you?
I think it was challenging in the beginning because of the lack of, the environment itself of studying at Ashoka, just sitting in the library and you're surrounded with people all like with the same purpose to a certain extent. So, I mean, it just seems easier to do it all in college. And also like the fact that you're missing out on the experience of being face to face with such great people. And I think that really like takes a hit. But in terms of like the way Ashoka's transition, I feel it's perfect. Like in terms of like even like we had a half semester still left when the pandemic hit. So it was very difficult to make the transition. But I think as much as we could in terms of the policies, in terms of the professors being willing to change things around to accommodate us, I think that just made things easier for us at this point. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you because, although I wasn't on campus, but, we would regularly right from the month of February, you would keep reading about these mails about the campus being sanitized and things like that. So I think the campus has really been, active through the whole thing and at keeping pace with what's going on in the surroundings. Yeah. Okay. So my next question is, what has been the biggest change or skill that you feel that you have undergone at Ashoka in the last few years? So I think, Roshin, these kind of questions keep coming to you. So I'm going to pose that question to you again.
I think one of the best things that I learned was, like someone mentioned, like how to speak up in class and ask your doubts, especially when you're in discussion areas. It's quite encouraged to say what you think, which in school isn't, encouraged as much because you're just trying to take in all this information. You're not really asking doubts and giving opinions. So just speaking up in larger environments was quite great. And just in general, becoming more independent over the years, I would say.
Okay. And Antara, would you like to tell us what is, if you had to say the one most important thing that has changed about you at Ashoka?
I think about me, maybe it's just like being able to put myself in situations that are uncomfortable and learning a lot from it, because like there's a lot of opportunities and different kinds of things always happening. So even if like you're a bit unsure, you just like go out there and you try it. And with the fact that it's a new university, there's a lot of things that we are also creating for it. So like in terms of like sociology club and stuff like that, like it was our batch that sort of created it, and it's like you are like there as the founding sort of members of particular things that are happening on campus that other people might follow up with. So it's like a really interesting feeling. So I think like even with the coming batches, it's going to be like that for quite some time. So I think there's a lot of like learning experiences being at such an important moment for a university.
Yeah. And you spoke about opportunities. So I would like to ask you, all the students, what are the kind of internships that you did? I mean, each one of you, if you can share your experience with internships, and are they mandatory, and how did you go about the whole process? So Trisha, we can start with you.
So I actually, last year was, during summer is when I interned. It's not mandatory, it's suggested. There are some professors who really encourage it, and there are some people who will tell you that, it's not necessary now, you focus on things, why don't you read some books and stuff like that. So I had both, sides of the argument. And we have an internship portal that the university offers through which you can apply, and they'll give you multiple options. But at that time, I was still very unsure. I hadn't sort of decided between subjects yet. So I wasn't sure what to do. So I applied personally and I interned with Times of India. But a lot of my friends, especially people who were doing things like eco, they actually got through the internship portal and interned with companies through that.
Aman, what about you?
So I think what's interesting about Ashoka is the fact that I think almost 3 to 4 months of the year out of 12 months you're actually back home or like back doing something other than college. So I mean that gives you a lot of free time in terms of like working on your own resume on your own. So I think that opportunity is dependent on how you want to take it and whether you want to like continue doing your own studies on your own, or you want to take up an internship. For me, I've planned to do both because in the past, when I had my summer break for 3 months, I did end up interning with the Delhi government for their COVID response. And post that, like now for the winter break, I'm planning on just doing my own reading on subjects that I really want to increase my knowledge about. So I mean, I think it's a personal choice which people decide to take up, and it depends on what you are looking for in the future. But the one thing at Ashoka is the support's there either way. If you need help with your internship, or if you need help with what you want to study in the future, there's someone always out there to help you out in figuring it.
Right. So there's this one question that comes to my mind, and this is something students often ask about. What is the what is the CDO? You have the Career Development Office doing a lot of workshops with you. So Antara, any of those workshops you attended, and How have they been? How they helped you build your profile in the past?
I've been for I think the resume writing workshops and like the SOP workshops, and they've had a lot of like grad school oriented workshops. And right now they're also having like a winter school sort of thing for the Ashokan students, where the ASP and MLS students, that's like the graduate students as well as the PhD students. Since we are doing research, we'll be requiring to do a particular like research proposal writing, thesis writing, and like things like that. So based on our requirement, we'll be having like a 5D workshop where we will learn how to do those particular requirements that we might have not learned in our 4 years here. So there's always like a lot of based on students' requirements. Right now, there'll be a lot of graduate applications. So there's grad application oriented sort of things. But like before the summer period, when people will be interning, there's the resume oriented. So it's based on what the students need at different points of the year that there's different workshops happening.
Right. And some students want to know how you make your choice for your majors. So um, whoever wants to answer that can take that. How did you choose to do a particular major? What's the process? Yeah, Shikha, yeah.
Yeah, so as I said,
Sorry, Roshni, yeah.
I came into Ashoka thinking I was going to do economics, and I changed to history and international relations after my first year. And till then, I hadn't even done any intro to history or IR courses, but I had done some foundation courses in like similar fields. So I realized through those foundation courses that, because the foundation courses are kind of like extensions of your major courses, that I would inevitably, enjoy the shift that I was going to be making. So even though I didn't come in knowing what major I was going to do for sure, like a lot of them have said already, Ashoka kind of prepares you, from the beginning, that you have this flexibility, try to use it as much as possible. So
that's interesting. And I have a very interesting question here. And I would like, some of you have already spoken about it, but I want you to articulate it even more. We've seen some very distinguished faculty members on the website. We want to know if these personalities really do take regular classes. So if you guys can share your experience and, it would be nice. So yeah, I think Aman wants to say something.
So I think whoever's on the website certainly does take up classes. So that's for sure. And also something that I find interesting in Ashoka is that although like our own professors are like experts in their own field, something which happens in Ashoka very often is we see professors bringing guest lecturers as well for some classes. So I've had the best political scientists from around the world, especially because of the pandemic. I think there's no borders in terms of who joins in your class. So we've had readings from like Professor Christophe Jaffalo, who teaches at Sciences Po in Paris and like at King's College of London. So you have him attending your class and explaining his reading to you. So we've had such experiences. We've had, we've had professors come physically to class because of their relationship with the professor and like teaching us their own, like writings. Or we've had recently somebody who came in and had a documentary screening, which they filmed this documentary a few years ago and was part of our course. So I think Ashoka, even if not for just the faculty, there's a lot of other experiences that come along with it. There's field visits that happen. So I think the last semester when we were doing a media studies course, we were told to go to like a protest site to understand what happens and how we can report on it. So there's a lot of activity that happens beyond the classroom as well, with stellar like faculty and with stellar people.
Antara, any of your faculty experiences, well-known faculty experiences you want to share?
So I don't know what in the sociology department that might be like I think they're all really like big people, and I was like, and they're really like as open to like again be available for all kinds of needs. And I think once again they have really like a lot of contacts and they've been bringing them. So we were almost planning to have like a film festival, ethnographic film festival, and for even that the professor was like, I have all these contacts, and like you can ask me and I can contact you to them. And like even right now I'm working on like a student journal. So for that, again, for like peer reviewers and things like that, we can always reach out through connections that faculty has. So yeah, like everyone who's on the website is teaching us. And on top of that, there's all their contacts that are like very accessible to us. And again, like I did a media studies course last semester as well. And for that, maybe like it was like sort of workshopping with different people from the film industry. so that we learn like direction from the director and learn cinematography from the cinematographer. So it was like really interesting where you like truly get to experience it all from like the very experts. Yeah.
So this is very interesting because I know all of you want to contribute. So I would really love to hear, yeah, Roshin, what would you like to say there?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on and say, like some of our professors, like Professor Shiv Shankar Menon or Professor Nayan Chanda in the IR department, they have such good hands-on experience that sometimes they'll be talking in class about a certain minister or statesperson, and they'll say things like, "Oh yeah, once when I had breakfast with him, he told me this," and we'll just be like, "What?" So yeah, they're very well reputed in their fields. Don't worry, and they're quite regular professors as well.
Yes. Trisha.
I was actually going to bring up Professor Nanchanga. Like, he's in class and he's talking about, this minister, and he specializes in Southeast Asia and everything. So, he's showing this picture, and it's an old black and white picture. And the next picture is of him with the person. And, he'll say that, I was called to give testimony at so-and-so's trial, this is my story. So I'm sitting in class and, I'm learning history, but like he's a part of the history, and the IR that I'm learning, which is extremely interesting because, as Roshi said, it's hands-on experience. And, I've taken a media studies FC with Professor Maya Mirchandani. I used to see her on TV, and then, she's teaching me in class, and, she's talking about, and, it was a media studies course in which we dealt with conflict. So, she would talk about her field experience, going into war zones and stuff like that. And that is something that, really astounded me because, I'm reading her learnings, her documentary films, and, things like that.
So personally, I would also like to share with you that I have a family, a large group of them who are ardent fans of Pratap Bhanu Mehta. And my stocks really went up in the family when they realized I work with Ashoka and I sometimes interact with it. So I know what you're saying, Trisha. Okay, so we go on to another question. What kind of clubs are there at Ashoka? I think some of you have covered that, but how's the campus life? Is it happening is the question. So whichever one of you want to share. Antara, I see you smiling. So how happening is campus life at Ashoka? Please.
It's extremely happening. Like there's a lot of mails coming in, and you have to sort of make a choice on which one you want to go for and which one you're missing out. So there's like performances, and in terms of clubs, there's academic clubs and like outside extracurricular clubs. So like Trisha mentioned, there's the dance club, there's a film club which does like screenings from Friday to Sunday. And then like there's loads of people coming in together to watch particular screenings together. And there's like all kinds of like there's this one club that's called Neve, and it does community working outside the campus because there's a Sabarpur village outside, and there's students coming in, there's students teaching like the children outside, and like there's like a lot of things happening basically, and half the time you have to like make sure on which one you want to like go to. And yeah, like personally, I've seen like so many students be part of so many things together, and I know it makes them like grow as a person because you're doing so many things and learning so many things.
Okay, that's wonderful to hear. Okay, I'm just trying to see what different questions we have here, which can. Okay, how are the disciplines assigned? I think we've covered that. Okay, students who are writing in want to know about hostel life and facilities, common spaces, dorm rooms, laundry, etc. I mean, whichever one of you can share. I think, yeah, Trisha, you can go ahead, please.
This was part of the campus tour that I used to take. So
Right.
this is an explanation that I used to give everybody. So dorms are shared. So it's twin sharing in the rooms, and in your first year you're usually assigned to a person that you obviously don't know, and they also try that it's a person from a different city. So you get to interact with different people, and you have common washrooms. So you have two washrooms on each floor, and they're at the end of the corridor. So you have two lifts, two washrooms, and two pantries. So you'll often find people cooking and having a meal together in the pantry if they're not going to the mess that time and everything. And laundries, you give it twice a week, you get it back after 2 days. And it's, I mean, you can also do your own laundry. There are washing machines in your building, and there are drying spaces outside right next to the washrooms. So, you can avail of the laundry facility and you can wash your own clothes if you want to.
Okay, that's wonderful. Aman, do you want to share your experience, how the men's residences, the common spaces there? I know you said you miss the library, but what else do you miss?
So I think one feature in the men's residence is no one is in the pantry as such. Everyone is just busy stealing food, and if there is anyone remotely cooking in the pantry, you would find somebody else trying to eat that food. That's something that happens here. But I think the residence type is really fun, and you have the resident assistance program, which is something which is part of Ashoka, where you have a senior usually who is assigned for each floor as a monitor per se, but also as a guide and a mentor. So which is really nice because in your first year you need somebody like that, especially I feel, to someone who like makes you feel at home in the setting, and also like make sure there's a bonding on the floor itself. So I think it was very interesting. And also floor mates are people who end up like you see them in class, you know them in your corridor, so I think you just build a bond with them as well. So I think that's something which is part of Ashoka's like residential life, which is really important.
Yeah. And this is just a temporary phase. You miss campus. I'm sure you'll be back soon. Okay, I think I have time for one last question, and this is a very important question. I want to know, and I think I'll address that to Roisin. Can you share with the audience how examinations are held at Ashoka? I mean, on a regular basis when you are on campus, how are examinations held?
For my major, we had some examinations in some papers, like I mentioned. Exams are, I mean, they're kind of like school exams, I guess, but you still have a lot of freedom because often for history, you would have still critical thinking. So it wouldn't be factual. Like you don't have to, it's not like fill in the blanks, like give the date for this event. It's more like, how did this event influence another, like another event that happened later or something like that, where it's still like an essay, but you just give it on the spot. That's my experience. And then you have academic papers, which you submit, you do it at, in your own time, and then you submit it later.
Okay, so thank you, Roisin. And I think we're out of time. I know there's a lot you can share, and I would like to close this session. Let's hope we can do this again, but with a big thank you to all of you for participating in this panel discussion. It was great interacting with all of you. There's so much more that I learned about Ashoka. But before I wrap today's session, a few last points. Please take a minute to share your feedback with us. We really appreciate it if you share it. The link to the feedback form is provided in the chat box. Our next webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, 15th December at 6 p.m. And it is on why study entrepreneurship at Ashoka with Priyank Narayan. He's the head of department for entrepreneurship and the director for the Center for Entrepreneurship at Ashoka University. The registration link for that session is provided in the chat box. We would also like to invite you for the upcoming webinar on undergraduate admissions, application assessment and interview, which will be a very useful session if you're applying to Ashoka. So this is with the admissions team, and it's on next Friday, which is 18th December at 5 p.m. Again, the registration link is going to be shared in the chat box. Lastly, I would like to inform our audience that round 2 applications for the undergraduate program are open. The last date to submit your application for the second round is 11th of January. So you have almost a month there. You can start your application at apply.ashoka.edu.in. Please visit our website, which is www.ashoka.edu.in for complete details on the admission process and timelines. If you have any further queries or would like to know more about Ashoka's unique interdisciplinary undergraduate program, you can write to us at apply@ashoka.edu.in or call us on the numbers provided on your screen. So thank you so much once again, parents and students. Now, I know it's a Friday evening, you're looking at a nice weekend ahead, but thank you for taking the time out and joining us. It was really great to have you. I hope I've given all of you enough opportunity to speak what you had to say, but if not, we would love to have you over. I'm sure we can have another very informative session like this, and there's so much to talk about. So thank you, everyone. We'll end the session here. It was lovely to have all of you.